So I made the whole video, tried to edit it, and it was almost 50 minutes long. So this is way too long because this intro is also way too long. So getting right to the point, you guys want a template. I don't know how to make one because I don't use a template, and you'll see what I mean when you watch through this video. So I'm going to be making a tutorial. Today we're making the full lower body. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get straight into it. So I'm just going to be recording over every part, I guess. So first of all, I said that you can use a body of a figure that you may already have, but if you don't, then here are the measurements upstream for the parts I'm about to show you. Because right now I'm going over the articulation. Something worth mentioning while I do this is that the entry body does not have a ball joint, so it's easier to change heights for male and female people that use this. Also, this was supposed to be the first template, so that will be first when I figure out how to make a template. Those are the materials you'll need to make a figure, plus printer paper and cardstock paper. Obviously, I already have a figure for reference to mark down heights, but for people that want to make a 5-inch figure like this one will be, the lower part of the leg is 3 centimeters, while the upper part of the leg is around 2.3 centimeters. So I marked down the heights using the size of each part of the leg. 4 rectangles is what you want to make. 2 of the longer bottom piece of the leg and 2 of the upper part of the leg. It doesn't matter what the width is, but the length does matter. And then you measure 2 centimeters because that is the next part of the leg, which goes inside the upper part of the leg for a swivel. And then you put that there too, so that's 6 rectangles. And when you're done drawing that, you begin to cut. Now you cut each part out because each leg has 3 parts. Make sure you cut them straight and make sure that each one's the same size because you really want to make sure that it's balanced so you don't have a leg that's longer than the other. Once you're done cutting all 6, you take tape and roll them up. Use a pencil crown if you have to. And you want to make sure each one's for each part's the same size. I used a foot with a ball joint already. The ball joint will be important. And then you just do that for every other side. Okay, so for the upper part, you want to make sure that the part that's above it fits inside. Make sure it's tight as well. So you can roll the smallest part and then roll the upper part around it, or however you want. Just make sure that that's what it looks like when you're done. Once you're done all the rolling, you leave cuts in the places I will show you right now. Make sure not to leave any cuts where the tape is, or your tape will split, and that's obviously not good. You want to cut the inner roll and just leave small ones, very small ones. You can even just tuck in the flap of what you cut, which will add more friction if you don't think you made it tight enough. And then you leave cuts in the bottom as well. I'm not showing it on camera because I'm not good at this, but that's what it should look like. Also not too big or nothing will fit inside. And then you do it with the next one too, the exact same thing. So for making the joint, it's one of the many reasons why I don't make templates, because it's really just an estimation of 2 rectangles and then 2 smaller things that would wrap around those 2 rectangles, like strips of paper. Then you cut it. Once you've cut that out, now you cut every single line you drew. So the 2 bigger rectangles and then the 2 strips. For the 2 bigger rectangles, you want to tape them and roll them up into like a pretty tight roll. Then you want to take the 2 smaller strips and roll them around the 2 rolls you made. You're going to want to do this tight, and if you didn't get it right, just take off the small roll and then wrap tape around the bigger one so you add friction. Then you want it to be able to fit into the cut you left in the upper part of the leg. It needs to fit nicely, so then you can glue it. Now you cut 2 more strips, which will be the supports. You put glue all over them and then cover the little parts and then glue it onto the lower leg. You want to make sure to avoid getting glue on the long parts, because that needs to be able to move so you can you have to let those dry. So while we wait, we will start working on the feet. You want the feet to be proportionate. I don't have a measurement for you guys, I forgot, but as long as it looks proportionate, not too big, not too small. You draw the shape of the feet first. These will be the bases. You cut both of them out. Once you got a good size, you draw 2 more strips. Make sure they're decently long. They are allowed to overlap. And then you take it, then you cut it in half, and then you roll. After putting tape around the base, and make sure they're on the same size, because if it's too big you won't be able to glue it. Slightly smaller is okay, but not too small. And once you got the perfect size, you put the tape on, closing the roll. Just like that. Once you got it, you put glue on the soles of the feet and then glue it on. And then you're gonna let that dry for a little bit before you work on the next step of the foot. Once you think the feet are done drying enough, you will start drawing the next step, which is sort of a cover, about half the size of the foot, so then the other half is still open. I don't usually draw this step. After that, you will cut it out. Make sure that it's slightly wider than the foot so you can curve it a little bit just to give it a natural shape. Before you can glue these on, our feet are going to be too high and raised. So the ring that you made, you're going to want to start trimming that a lot. Kind of give it a slope design, so where it's very low to the point where it's going up and it sort of gets higher, but obviously not too high because you still don't want it to be high. And once you think you got it good enough, you can glue on the top like that. Hold it until it feels like it's staying, and then just leave it to dry. You can do the same thing for the other foot. So going back to the legs, put glue on each end of the cuts we left in the upper part of the leg, thighs pretty much, and then connect the 2 pieces. Make sure that you don't get any glue on the middle piece, because that needs to be able to move like that. Do it for both legs. With our legs going well, we're going to finish the feet. I'm sorry for the focusing problems with my camera that occur for the rest of the video. You want to cut out 2 strips, put tape, roll them up pretty tight. Make sure that they're not too high or too low. You put glue at the bottom of the foot where we left the opening, and you put them inside. Feel free to trim it if you have to, but do that for both feet. This part is very important because this is the first time I'm making a ball joint. Two, in fact. You kind of just estimate. One of the other reasons I don't make templates, because the estimation with ball joints, you use printer paper for this, and you put glue all over it and roll it up until it's like a ball and put it on, making sure that it fits in the bottom of the leg, that's not too big or too small. So now I'm going to be making a part that I haven't made in a while, which is like a butt waist piece. As you can see, I usually just combine it, but today we're splitting it. So I'm taking the body and trying to draw all of it, measuring each part. You sort of just draw it until it looks right and it matches with your legs, sort of. Because I forgot to add a measurement here too, because I don't do this. Once you got that exact shape there, you cut it. Once you got a good shape, you take tape, put it on those two edges, and then you close everything, wrapping it. I'm going to take a body to make sure that I got a good enough size there, because the width is very hard to find, but you don't want it to be too ovular. You want it to be sort of circular. As you can see, the legs look decent enough in it, so I did a good job there. This part sort of gets complicated. We're making a bunch of joints that will all go inside there, and I will obviously show you how. So I'm going to draw these two pieces that should be around the same width together as this waist thing. And now we are cutting a rectangle out, a strip that should be able to fit inside our waist thing. So the other two things that we cut out, make them rolls. I'm using a figure to find out the size, but if you don't have a figure, just make a roll, and then the other roll should be able to fit inside. So the small strip that we made for the inside, you roll it around the bigger roll, the wider roll you just made, and make sure that's tight, but it rotates inside. And you can take glue and just drop it in there at the very bottom. Make sure that it stays there, because if that comes off, then you won't be able to move most things. So take the other roll, like I said, make sure it can go inside the other. They're supposed to overlap. Once you got something good enough, then you get to work on the next joints. Just like we did with the knees, pretty much. Two rectangles and then smaller ones that wrap around. For the longer rolls, you want to make sure that they fit in the other cut you left of the roll that went inside the upper part of the leg. You want to make sure that it's not too small, or it's obviously going to be harder to glue, not too big, or it obviously won't fit. So you want to get perfect. Make sure that if it's not, trim it. See, like I'm doing here, it's too big. I trimmed it to get it inside. Now you cut out your two strips that will wrap around. Once you have your two joints, you cut out two strips just like the last one that you will cover in glue, put on the smaller rolls, make sure it doesn't touch the long one, and then put them on the two other things that we have here. One for the wider one, and then one for the one that's supposed to be able to rotate inside the wider one. Make sure that these supports are stuck there so no joints rip. And if you did it right, it should turn out pretty well once it's dry, with the longer parts still rotating inside that. Once the two joints are dry enough, and they have to be dry enough or it's gonna rip, you put glue inside the top of the leg on both sides and glue the joints in. Again, make sure it doesn't touch the smaller one, and it's just the long part, and then they will be able to fit inside of each other. Now you take another strip about the size of the middle in between the legs, put glue on both sides of that, and just put the strip on, making it look nicer, kind of giving it a crotch instead of whatever this is, because it makes the legs look too long when it's done. I know it's sort of noticeable that I didn't put any effort into that strip and making it straight, but when you add color to your figure, you can make it look better and it won't even be as noticeable. And the final part today, I know I didn't get this in the right order, but you're going to want to roll a strip, cut out an oval or circle like that, cut a hole into that, and then put the strip on it after you've rolled it, and then you put it inside. This is very much not a right order. I apologize. If you have to, feel free to trim down your strip because it shouldn't be that tall, because you want this to sit very naturally inside your waist butt area. As you can see, I made it way too tall, so I had to trim it a couple times until I got it right. But when you're done, let everything dry, and then you'll have your full lower body. So here's what we got so far. Complete lower body, and I'm very optimistic to see how the rest of this turns out. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. I have time in the video now, so I can quickly go over the articulation, all jointed foot, sort of just articulates anyhow. Our knees are quite deep, so it bends. Swivel, goes out, very nice. And the next part will show what this hole will do. So it goes. Now we're done.